Welcome back, everybody. It's the FantasyPros Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host for the day, Scott Bogman, and normally I'm joined here by Pat Fitzmaurice and Ryan Wormley, but they couldn't be out, so we got a couple scrubs here helping us in, a couple backup hitters, pinch hitters off the bench for us. Debro at Derek Brown, at Debro_FFB on the Twitter machine, and Jake Ciely, the All-In Kid at All-In Kid. Fellas, what is going on? Are you guys ready to talk about some Dynasty Superflex rookie rankings here today?
Hell yeah, man. I'm like the Pete Incaviglia of this show today. And for everybody knowing that show, that's an old callback. So
Pete Incaviglia. That's a strong
like that, huh?
bro. Yes,
that is
very much for not a baseball guy to pull Pete Incaviglia is pretty solid there. Jakey, what's going on, my friend?
Yeah, you're making me have like a withdrawal. I don't know, withdrawals. Like what's the word I'm looking for here? I just had not flashbacks. It's gonna be like I feel slighted by the beardness on this show is what I was going with. There's a word. It was like on the like when you don't measure up. And like, there's a word for it. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway,
you both have beard. Just let it grow.
No, but you guys got the big ones, and they're red. Like it's like you get like the lush, like the Viking beards going on over there. I got this little like like I'm trying to be on like another ER episode or something.
Yeah, you look good. You look good.
I got to know Wiley to your game.
I like the beard on you, Jake. Usually you're pretty clean shaven, so it's looking good, man.
I'll be super clean shaven tomorrow. I'm gonna be gone for a week, so I have to like shave ahead of time. So by the end of it, I don't look like you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, or you could just let it grow.
I think you got about 100 pounds to go on that too. So
wow.
But let's
I was just talking about the scruffy beard box.
This just went a totally different direction.
Of course. But we are going to be going over some Superflex Dynasty rookie rankings here. And if you guys want to check out the rankings, you want to see where they stack up against each other, you can check out our Dynasty rookie rankings at fantasybros.com/rankings to see where the experts slot all of these players. We are going to give you ECR. I won't give you every single ranking from all three of us here, but we will talk about where we have some of the bigger differences. So let's start out in the first round. Gentlemen.
Inadequate. That was the word. Inadequate. Thank you, Google AI. Continue.
No, I knew what it was. I wasn't going to say it. It sounds fairly insulting. But let's start out with the ECR. Number one for ECR and for all of us is Ashton Jeanty. Now, I will say that is where the similarities start and end for the first round of the ECR. So it gets pretty wild after that for our rankings. Number two for Superflex is Cam Ward. Number three is Martin Hampton, the running back for the Chargers. Now Travis Hunter at number 4. Then we have Tet McMillan at 5. Travion Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State, at 6. At 7 is Jaxson Dart, the quarterback for the New York Giants. Number 8, Quinshon Judkins, running back for Cleveland. 9 is Tyler Warren, tight end for Indy. 10 is Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Tampa Bay. 11 is Kaleb Johnson, running back from Iowa to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 12, Colson Loveland, the tight end, going to the Bears. So like I said, we mix these up pretty good from ECR. The first large difference, I mean, we all have Jeanty number 1, even in Superflex, even if you're quarterback desperate, you take Jeanty and you trade him for a better quarterback than Cam Ward. So that's what I would say. That's just your standard. Jeanty is 1. It doesn't matter what your format is, tight end, premium, anything. It's Jeanty. Jeanty is 1. No pushback from you guys on that, right?
Nope.
No,
I didn't think so.
Not at all.
Okay, all right. So number 2 is Cam Ward. Jake and I have Cam Ward at number 2 at Superflex. Debro, not so much. You dropped him a little bit to 6. So just explain why we have Cam Ward at 6 here in your rankings.
So Cam Ward throughout the entirety of the process has not been my QB1 of the class. Now my QB1 unfortunately tumbled to the 5th round of the NFL draft, so I moved him down my board. But I think just overall, looking at the first quarterback off my board, who is Jaxson Dart, being the 5th guy, behind what I look at as like the elite tier of guys. And I think going into this year's quarterback class, even in Superflex, I'm going to put the 4 guys that I think are in the elite tier, which are Ashton Jeanty, Tetairoa McMillan, Omarion Hampton, and Travis Hunter, over any of the quarterbacks here. So I think that's just the divide. Like, and I understand taking Cam or Dart as early as like 2 and 3 off the board, considering the format. but just looking at the level of prospects, the draft capital thrown into those top 4 players positionally, that's where I come away with, I want those guys, unless, even if you're quarterback hungry for your team, I'm probably taking one of those guys over either one of the quarterbacks of this class.
I don't necessarily hate that. Jake, what are your thoughts on Cam Ward at 2?
Yeah, we talked about this on another show just recently, and I'm more on Cam Ward than Debro is. It seems like you're with me on this, and it just comes down to I do think there's rushing upside here. I do think he can be Kyler Murray in that facet. Later, Kyler Murray, not the 900-yard Kyler Murray, but 600, a couple touchdowns, and I like what Cam Ward does. I do admit there is risk with him. I do think similar to what we've seen with other quarterbacks just last year. Actually, I did a smash-up comp, but Debro compared him to potentially Kaleb Williams for his first season. And I like that for the decision-making questions, is that he gets a little reckless. Even when we saw his just best season, he made some poor decisions. So I think that could spill over to his rookie season. That being said, I think that if we're looking at he's even Kaleb Williams 85%, I'd still take him the number 2 because it's a super flex. I think,
right,
depending on your team, like if you're wide receiver desperate, I could see going 2 with Hunter or McMillan. But I just think because we are talking super flex, because Cam Ward, I do think has QB1 upside, even though he is a risk, I would still take him number 2.
And that's where I think Jake and I divide, or maybe I divide between the two of you, is I don't see the rushing upside with Cam Ward, considering he wasn't a rushing threat in college. Now, maybe that changes in the NFL, but the other part about Kaleb Williams, there's a lot of Kaleb Williams to Cam Ward's game. It scared me about Kaleb. We saw his rookie season, and it scares me about Cam. And I mean, also, like, what's the ceiling for him in year 1? I know he's going to hold the value because of Superflex, but what is the ceiling for him in year 1 when he's surrounded by a bunch of 4th and 5th round picks and Calvin Ridley? And so if he turns in like a low end QB2 season, which I think a lot of us in redraft are going to rank him there somewhere probably in the mid QB2 to low end QB2 range, then he likely holds his value. But that's where it differentiates for me versus the top positional players.
Yeah, I think it's kind of team dependent on where you have Cam Ward on your board. Yeah. If you have good QBs, you don't need Cam Ward. He's too much of a risk. I'd rather go with Amari Hampton, Travis Hunter, one of those upside guys, McMillan. But if you are QB desperate, you can take him over anybody that isn't Jeanty. That's kind of our guideline when it comes to Cam Ward. You can take him over anybody, but if you don't need a quarterback, skip him. I agree with that sentiment.
I'm in a 10-team dynasty. Yeah, that's a bunch of friends, but in a 10-team, and Cam Ward fell to the 5th pick, and it's super flex to give you an idea.
Yeah, not surprising. Those teams are probably set at QB. Let's go to the next one that has a large discrepancy is Jaxson Dart. Now, I'm low on Jaxson Dart. I have him at 12. You guys both have him at 4 for Jake and 5 for Debro. So I'll let you guys lead the Jaxson Dart discussion.
No, this is what's crazy about it. It's all about value. I'll jump right in because the show I'm talking about that I just did with Joe and Debro, I told you I did a lot of smash up comps, and we asked about Jaxson Dart, and I said I don't even have one for him. I don't even go into depth on this one. He's Daniel Jones. Like, the Giants got rid of Daniel Jones to draft Daniel Jones, and Debro hates that take, and I understand, and I might be wrong about this. I just don't believe in him. That being said, even though I believe he's just Daniel Jones 2.0, it's still super flex, and that comes with some rushing upside. That comes with some potential. And I'm also basing this off the fact that maybe I'm a little too, sour on him or whatever it might be. I'm willing to admit I get some players wrong. And if I'm wrong on Jaxson Dart in a super flex, and he can still even be QB 16, like that's who he is for the next 4 years as QB 16. In a super flex, he has to be a top 5, top 6 pick. And that's why I have him here.
I think that makes sense. Debro, you believe in Jaxson Dart a little bit more than I do. Tell us what you like about him.
I mean, it's all the things, all the stuff about him. I mean, I think that we're pushing a little bit too much the Ole Miss narrative. The more that things have come out, they incorporated a lot of West Coast things into that offense. I think you do see him get to his second read, third read in that offense. The accuracy is there, and the rushing upside is there. I mean, I think last year, looking at quarterback evaluation, I got a lot right. I also got a lot wrong. And one of those L's was Bo Nix. And I see a lot of possibility of Jaxson Dart being the next Bo Nix, where a lot of people in the process crapped on him as a prospect. He goes in the first round. He goes to a situation where it's like, okay, what are you going to get out of that offense? And we've seen Brian Daboll do some good things with the offense, including Daniel Jones, whenever, league average quarterback play. And we know that Dart is going to run. I think right now we're assuming Russell Wilson starts the season. I think that does happen, but how long does he start? Like, we get 2-3 games in, Russell Wilson does some goofy Russell Wilson stuff. He throws a pick. He does something dumb. He doesn't see his reads over the middle of the field. And the Giants are like, well, Dart's been blowing it up in practice, and it's time for him to see the field. So for me, with Dart, I think there's a lot of areas to his game that are underrated, and the rushing upside is definitively there. So I think there's a possibility where he walks away with a Bo Nix type of rookie season. So even in like at Superflex, regardless of what we think about these quarterbacks, there's only so far I could push them down the board.
And I understand that. And that's why I still have him as a first rounder on my board. But
I've seen him fall into the second round of some drafts. So like, I get it. Like, I get
it. So I guess my thing with Dart is, okay, let's say Russell Wilson does suck the first 5, 6, 7 weeks, whatever. They're not going to him. They're going to Jameis first, I think.
I think it's Dart. So maybe that's where we divide too.
I mean, why would you even sign Jameis then?
Because they didn't know if they were going to get a quarterback in the draft, so they're giving themselves outs to cover.
I'm a little bit more with Boggs on this one. If it wasn't for that Daboll and Sheen are on their last legs here, if they had another year to their career, I would say I'd be more with you, D-Bro.
But that also. Okay. Well, real quick, that also that point that Jake just made, that Daboll and Shiner are on their last legs here. I fear a Josh Rosen-ness to Jaxson Dart. A new regime comes in next year, probably GM and head coach. Do they like Dart? And if they do, how long is the leash? Right?
It's a valid risk to bring up.
It's shaping up to be a strong QB draft as well. So if you're picking high again, you just took Dart in the first. It felt kind of desperate. Now, to your point, D-Bro, it may be that, hey, look, we're desperate here. We know Jameis Winston is not the long-term answer. Let's just throw Dart in. Let's get him 8 games at the end and see what he does to try to save our jobs here, since we started out 1-5 or 2-4, whatever it is, and try to make it work. So that knife can cut both ways, but I'm not as confident in his long-term ability with the Giants because of the coaches potentially being on their last legs too. Now that is galaxy brain, probably overthinking it a little bit much,
but it's worth it because we brought up the conversation about Travis Hunter. If he went to the Browns, that we might have a regime that doesn't want to use him as much as wide receiver. So it's a valid argument. And I mean, you could spin this the other way too. You could say, what if the Giants shock us and they start off 5-2 and all of a sudden Russ gets hurt? They're probably going to turn to Winston because they're going to try and keep winning. I mean, you could go down 20 paths with it, but I think we're bringing up, like, there is concern and risk whether you like them or don't.
Yeah, there's concern and risk. The only pushback I'll give about, like, with the head coach and stuff like that defense is going to be really stinking good. So that defense is raising the floor, which we haven't seen for the Giants in how many years, guys? Like, their pass rush is going to be ferocious. Their secondary is going to be much improved. I think that's going to buy them a certain number of wins. I think drafting or the mayor is allowing this team, the front office and the head coach, to draft a quarterback also says maybe this leash isn't as short as what we've been led to believe. Like, if they're drafting a quarterback, are they going to give them a definitive second year with the guy? Much less, what if they do win? Like, what if the defense is good? What if the offense overperforms? I could see all different paths here.
Right. And that's why I have him at the end of the first round, is because I think it's a narrower path to get him significant playing time this year. And what does that mean for next year? So we'll see. The good news is first round quarterbacks get second lives, third lives, fourth lives. Sam Darnold just signed with his 5th team for $100 million. So he's been around the block, and he was a first rounder.
Imagine making that statement in 2024.
I know, exactly. No one they would have said, okay, Grandpa, time to take your crazy pills here. A couple of the guys that we have significantly higher or lower. D-Bro, not that we don't have to spend as much time on these guys, but D-Bro, not as big a fan on Quinshon Judkins as Jake and I, and consensus. So what is it about Judkins that concerns you?
So the second round capital was really good. That bumped him up in my ranks. Now that was like RB 10 to moving him to RB 6. The concerns I still have about Judkins is I think he's a volume compiler. We have questions about what is this offense going to look like? Like how often are they going to be in scoring position? How often? I mean, who the heck is the quarterback, and how well are they going to play? Even if you have faith in Joe Flacco or Dylan Gabriel or Kenny Pickett, oh good lord, or Shedeur Sanders. So for me with Judkins, I wasn't high on him as a prospect, and it was a lot of it is just whether it was the film or the numbers. I couldn't make a really good argument to be pro Judkins. Like over the last 2 years, 82nd, 121st in yards after contact per attempt. That's not great. I know a lot of people talked about the usage, but the second round capital bumped him up my board, but it only goes so far. And I think the fourth round pick of Dylan Sampson is also telling. Now, yes, does that kick Jerome Ford to the curb? Yes, I think so. But I think that where Judkins, a lot of people are looking at like, could he get bell cow usage in this backfield? I think it's more like you're looking at him as the 60-40 guy. Like he's the workhorse and probably like this is the new Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And if that is the case in an offense where we have tons of questions about how good can they be, who is the quarterback, are they going to go out and draft a quarterback next year, and how good even is Judkins, that's where it pushes him down my board some.
Yeah, Judkins is an interesting player, Jake. I mean, you can see the effort kind of wane, but the playoffs, he was insane. I thought he was really, really good. And it looks like in this Cleveland offense, as Debro alluded to, we don't know who the QB is going to be. The defense is still getting fixed up, right? It's not a complete defense here quite yet. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. So I think even in a 60-40 split, Judkins gets a ton of carries from the jump in this offense. What are your thoughts on Judkins?
Yeah, that's why I'm with you on this one. I think that it's the NFL that we're in right now. How many bell cows are there? And I think that even Judkins and Sampson being the new split that they, and kicking Jerome Ford to the curb, I think is still enough for Judkins. It's the same reason I have Henderson one spot in front of him, and I go Tre Henderson over Judkins just on the explosiveness, especially in the passing game. But they're back to back because I just think we're looking for, hey, do I have a talented running back that gets 60% of the work? Cool, you're at least an RB2 these days. So that's why I'm a little bit more, I admit with, Debro said there's risk. Hell, if they go full-blown committee because they don't want to completely get rid of Jerome Ford yet because he performed plenty of well at times, then this is worst case scenario. But I think you spend a second and then the third, I mean, you're looking at a new tandem going forward. And I'm not really worried about the quarterback, whether it's Flacco down to Sanders and I'm throwing Kenny Pickett out of the window as the equation. Not part of it.
Yeah, we'll see. Somebody's getting cut before the season starts. And how can it not be Pickett is kind of the question now, right?
Yeah.
100%. The other thing I want to add on Judkins is he's in the same tier, and I think this is what pushes him down the board for me versus you guys. Like he's in the same tier as Kaleb Johnson, Tre Harris, Emeka Egbuka, and Jaden Higgins, all guys that got first or second round capital for me. It's just when I'm looking at either the year one outlook for those guys, or I'm looking at draft capital and 2 to 3 year window. He's at the bottom of that tier for me with similar draft capital and outlooks versus like maybe he's at the top of the tier for a lot of other people.
Yeah, he's going to be an interesting player for sure. Before we move on here, I want to ask you guys to give us some reviews on our NFL draft coverage over here at Fantasy Pros. If you enjoyed our NFL draft coverage, just help us grow. Leave a review at fantasypros.com/reviews. You can do it on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast as well. And subscribing to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel helps us out a lot as well. So your support fuels more episodes and expands our draft coverage. So just let us know you like it and you want more of it. That would be awesome if you guys could do that for us. We'd really appreciate it. Just wrapping up the first round here, gentlemen. Jake and I are a little bit lower on Tyler Warren. I think that is just the landing spot and the amount of targets that they have in Indy, right, Jake?
Yeah, mostly. I was going to say the other part of it is just I'm inherently lower on tight ends in Dynasty in general, just because unless you are a Brock Bowers,
right,
you're not really that much of a difference maker. Just because I think this is a complete sidebar that I'm pulling into this, but I think people roster too many tight ends in Dynasty because once you get past the difference makers, they're all the same. And like, why are we having 3, 4, 5 tight ends on rosters? Because we hope one day they can be tight end 10. No, like I'm chasing a top 5 tight end. Warren on the right team could have been a top 5 tight end. But I don't want to try to project out 2 years from now and say maybe it's not Richardson or Jones and we're thinking of a different quarterback. They end up at the top of the draft class and maybe Arch Manning. Like you could go down this rabbit hole of what Warren could be, but let's be honest about what it is right now. Warren and Loveland did not end up in great spots to potentially be top 5 tight ends. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and they're not, how many sure things have we thought we're gonna hit? Kyle Pitts didn't hit.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid seemed like for sure to be the man out of that class, didn't hit. So, tight ends are harder, I think, in general. We're both a little bit lower on Kaleb Johnson than consensus, Jake. For me, it's just the fact that I don't like Arthur Smith's offense. I don't know how long he lasts.
You're a self-hating Steelers fan.
And
that's what comes down to, Fox.
It's not. Well, I am, but it's not even that. It's Jalen Warren is pretty good too, and he's going to get 10 to 15 touches in this offense. I don't think he's as good as Kaleb Johnson. He does not have the shoulders to carry a workload like Kaleb Johnson. Kaleb Johnson is the A. But there's a lot of good running backs in this class too. So it's kind of hard to fit them all in a tight window here. So that was my thoughts on Kaleb Johnson. D-Bro, you're right on consensus there. What do you like about him?
I mean, Najee Harris got 299 touches last year. Let's even bump that down. Let's say Jalen Warren eats into the backfield more. Okay. Over under 250 touches for Kaleb Johnson in year 1. I'm taking the over. Where are you guys at?
I was going to say 260, so I took over.
Okay. Yeah. So, Bogman, where you at?
Yeah, probably over.
Okay, so
the one thing I worry about
he's sniffing in the area of 300 touches in year 1. So how low can we be on this guy? Like,
yeah, I understand. I have him just outside the first round, but we'll see. I mean, also, is he involved in the pass game at all? Because they refuse to throw the forward pass in the state of Iowa still sometimes. So at least the Hawkeyes do. So he just doesn't have a lot of experience in it. Let's go to the second round, guys. 13 to 24 lineup like this. And number 13 in ECR is RJ Harvey. Blasphemy to D-Bro. Here, a second rounder.
It is.
And number 14, we got Matthew Golden, the wide receiver, going to the Packers. Number 15, Luther Burden on the Chicago Bears. 16 is Tre Harris, the wide receiver, going to the Chargers. Jaden Higgins of the Texans at 17. 18 is Jalen Milroe, the quarterback out of Bama, going to Seattle. Number 19, Cam Skattebo, the awesome running back from Arizona State that D-Bro seems to hate. Number 20 is Jack Betch, the wide receiver for the Raiders. Number 21 is Tyler Shough, the quarterback, going to the Saints. Number 22 is Kyle Williams, wide receiver, going to New England. 23 is Jalen Knoll, the wide receiver out of Iowa State, also going to Houston. Number 24 is Bhayshul Tuten, the running back out of Virginia Tech, who landed up in Jacksonville there. Jake, why do you hate RJ Harvey? I think that's the first question. I have him at 8. D-Bro has him at 7. You actually have him closer to consensus than we do at 13. Yeah. But yes, this hate, we won't stand for it here on this podcast. We hate it. Tell us, why do you dislike RJ Harvey at his current value?
I actually think his current value is fine. It's where you guys have him and have an issue with. I like RJ Harvey. I just, again, this comes down to practice and like what I do in Dynasty. I am going to always lean wide receiver over running back. And
that's fair.
Now, if you're needy and you have to go RJ Harvey, I won't fault you. Again, I referenced that 10-team league. He slipped into the back end of the first round. I have no problem with it. Like, I understand teams need. And I love RJ Harvey in this situation. During my draft write-up, I said he got himself a new Alvin Kamara, but I think he's a lesser Alvin Kamara. That's my issue. And if you want to say he's Alvin Kamara, that's fine. I will not agree with you on that. I think he's lesser. And 80%, 85% Alvin Kamara means he's an RB2, not an RB1. And that's my only issue here. I don't think Estime is a big factor. You know this, Bogman. We talked last year. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I know my running backs from Notre Dame. And I know that Estime is just a dude who had a great offensive line in front of him. But I think he'll factor in. I think the entire you go through all their options in the backfield, and I think you have 3 significant pieces. And that's before the fact of even when Alvin Kamara was the dude with the Saints, what does Sean Payton do? He has 4 active running backs on game day. We were sitting here, he just is always going to use multiple options. and it's the volatility. I think RJ Harvey can be an RB1 this week, and I think he'll be an RB3 the week after that, and RB2 and he'll check out as an RB2 at the end of the season. I like him. I love the landing spot. I just am not going to invest a first rounder in Dynasty because I also know who Sean Payton is.
Yeah, I guess my pushback on what you just said, and you're right about the amount of running backs that he carries. A couple of those guys are going to play on special teams, number one. And
sure.
Number two is that this is going to be one of those things where RJ Harvey is so much better than any running back on this roster that it's going to be hard, I feel like, for Sean Payton to peel him off the field. Now, Audric Estime is a thumper, so he might be the Mike Gillislee and score like 12
McLaughlin's
touchdowns.
Still going to factor in. And even if you go, the last thing I'll say, if you go back to Alvin Kamara outside of his insane seasons, the 2 insane touchdown seasons, but even actually one of those, and if you look at the per game basis, there's 8 touches one game, 11 touches, and then you usually hover because of the passing game in that 14 to 16, which is cool. But you do see the volatility depending on the game script, depending on the matchup, depending on if they're falling on their face or not. And again, that's just what it comes down to. I believe RJ Harvey will legitimately, as a rookie, push RB2 value. And that's fine if you want that. Again, it comes more to the fact that some of the guys, I'm trying not to mention the names, but like there's wide receivers I would just take on their talent in year 2 and beyond that I can see in front of him.
Yeah, I don't fault you for that at all. I just feel like RJ Harvey is going to live in this offense. I'm kind of with Debro, and Debro kind of made the point of, is Jaleel McLaughlin going to be used? I don't think there's a Pierre Thomas here outside of the rest of these guys. I think it's, maybe they get one next year, but I think this year is going to be a ton of carries for Harvey, and then it's going to kind of be leaning on him. I think he's a great fit with Bo Nix. I love everything about it. And I wasn't nearly the RJ Harvey guy going into the draft that Debro is here, but I mean, he got drafted over some good RBs. They passed some good names for him, and we know, Sean Payton likes his guys, Debro.
Yeah, man. I mean, this just comes down to it's fit and it's talent, and when those two line up, to me, I'm gonna be aggressive on guys, and I'm gonna go get my guys. So I understand I'm above ECR. I understand a lot of people like Bogman, like you and I have him at 7th and 8th. I understand a lot of people aren't going to do that, and I get Jake's points. And I think the divide here is Estime wasn't used last year, and Javonte Williams was a skeleton of his former self. Jaleel McLaughlin didn't take over the backfield, and Javonte Williams was still a skeleton of his former self. So, like, to me, I have a hard time believing entering this year when Sean Payton went out and put his stamp on this backfield and said, I'm getting my guy in the 2nd round, and he's not going to get all the work. Like, I have a hard time believing, like, after a year where if Estime and Jaleel were good enough to step up, and I was over the moon for Jaleel. Like, I was like, he is going to be awesome. Like, this was me pounding my chest last year for Jaleel McLaughlin, and it just never happened. Now, we can all like parse through why that didn't happen, pass pro, things like that, but it didn't happen. So, like, I don't see it happening now when Denver invested into the backfield. And again, Jake, you talked about, we know who Estime is. He's not catching any freaking passes. He didn't do it in college. He's not going to do it now. So what's the run out there? Like, he's the goal line back, but we have nothing to believe on that because he wasn't even the goal line back last year. So I just think it's a clear runway for RJ Harvey, and I'm not worried about either one of those guys at all.
I'm always open to discussion. I was actually not even in love with my tight ends. So how about this? I'm moving up all 3 running backs. I now have Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren even further down at 15 and 16, and RJ Harvey is number 12, so he makes the first round now. They're live on the show. You can see the updated ranks at The Athletic, and now we have them in the first round at 12.
Jake, welcome to the club, because look at where I have my tight ends on the sheet.
There you go.
Exactly the same spot. So,
I don't have a problem with now. And I'll say, going back to the tight ends, the only reason that I have them as high as I do is 1, to be in line with consensus. So some people like following our ranks get exposure to them in drafts. But 2, what I'm also telling people in Discord is, look, they have draft capital. Year 1 is probably going to be rough. They're going to be in every buy low article next year that's going to be written. And that's fine. I want people to get exposure to them. But in drafts, I'm also telling people in Discord that, like, look, why are you going to pay up for Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland when you can get this second tier of tight ends that all have clear runways, maybe this year if injury happens, or definitely next year when this slew of veterans are all off of these teams. So I don't disagree with burying Warren and Loveland at all, because in my personal drafts, I'm bypassing them.
Yeah, tight ends just take too long to make the big impact. It's not one for one. I mean, Laporta was awesome from the jump. Mm-hmm. But
here's the funny thing. I moved him up to 12, and you can still say, why do I hate him compared to you guys? So there you go.
No, but you're above ECR too, so people are going to get him in drafts. Like, I mean,
one spot.
Yeah. That's right. Listen, we have a more important player to talk about than RJ Harvey, because this month, if you want a chance to win a signed Nico Collins Texans jersey for FREE free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on any video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to claim your prize.
I quit so I can do that. I would like to enter that contest.
Jake needs that Nico jersey. He needs it. Listen, we have a trio of wide receivers to talk about here. We each have one of these guys ranked higher than the other two. So, Debro, let's start with you. It is the lowest ECR, but you have Tre Harris at 12. His ECR is 16. You have him as a first rounder. So let's hear the argument for Tre Harris over Luther Burden, who Jake is higher on, and then Matthew Golden, who of course I am higher on.
This just comes down to, I think it's a merit. I think when we're looking at draft capital versus landing spot versus talent, the waters get very, very muddy in this wide receiver class for me. And whether it's Tre Harris, you're going to make the case for Egbuka, Jaden Higgins, Golden, Jack Besh is even in that conversation, and Luther Burden. These are all guys that went either first round or second round. We're looking at very differing landing spots, how we're projecting what their year one, maybe their careers look like. And the guy that I was highest on the process, I love his landing spot. And I think he has a clear path to not only just playing time, but being the number 2 option in an NFL passing offense. And that's Tre Harris. And I want to remain above consensus on him. And I know I'm aggressively so, but I'm not worried about Quinshon Judkins. I am not worried about Mike Williams. Mike Williams last year, among 77 qualifying wide receivers, was 76 in separation and 73rd in route win rate. I don't even know if he makes it out of camp just because of where he's at in his career. Maybe they keep him on, but regardless, Tre Harris I think is going to be, if not out the gate, very short order, going to be the number 2 wide receiver in this offense behind only Ladd McConkey. And we saw this offense throw a bunch last year, and we could talk about, okay, maybe they run more. I don't think they're going to go from being in weeks 8 through 18 last year. This is a top 12 offense in both pass rate over expected and neutral passing rate. I don't think even with the addition of Amarion Hampton and Najee Harris here, they're going to just vault and turn into a top 5 rushing offense. Maybe that happens, but that's not how I'm projecting it. This is a mishmash of talent and opportunity, and I think they both line up fantastically for Tre Harris. So I want to be above consensus on him, aggressively so.
Jake, the guy that you're above consensus on is Luther Burden. Let's hear why you love Luther Burden.
So it comes down to the fact I thought he was a top 3 talent. I had 3 wide receivers in my top tier. Hunter, McMillan, and Burden was the other one. And I think Burden has a non-zero chance to step in on this field and be the number 2 wide receiver this year, because we talk about regimes, we talk about teams changing. We just brought that up earlier with the Jaxson Dart situation, is that I think there's a non-zero chance that Dunze might be the 3rd option. Like, we sat here, I included, had him in my tier 1 last year with 2 other wide receivers. And it was a disappointing season, both performance and statistically. And I say performance because there was reasons to get concerned about Odunze. Now, before the draft happened, I had Odunze inside my top 30 wide receivers, saying like, hey, he is the number 2. Keenan Allen's gone. Kaleb Williams, Ben Johnson. This team is going to be better. The offensive line, everything's looking skyrocketing. Get on board. And then they drafted Burden, and I'm like, oh, shoot. Because like Burden's arguably, in my opinion, talent-wise, on the same tier, if not better than Odunze. And that's where I'm concerned here, is because Odunze's value, a lot of it was going to be the slot, now that he's not going to play outside. But if you look at Burden here, being able to do similar things and so dynamic, I'm worried that Burden comes in or for Odunze. And if so, if not year 1, I definitively think like Burden's talent is too undeniable, in my opinion, that he's not a top 2 option next year in 2026, whether that's with Odunze or with DJ Moore. So that's why I'm taking him, because I'm full on into this offense. And I think Burden is going to be in a top 20 wide receiver conversation starting 2026, if not sooner.
Yeah, I mean, we have him ranked in the same spot, and you just pumped me up about him a little bit. I don't think he's as good as Odunze, though. Like, I think Odunze is still better. Burden had a down year this year, but he's gonna Ben Johnson has a plan for this guy. It's gonna be Debo-esque, I feel like, as well. He's gonna get the ball. He's gonna have plays designed for him and be on the field a lot. So I'm a big fan of Burden as well.
Well, to that point, I think if you said, like, argue aside of like, if you think he's the same talent, just take that, put it to a side for a second. DJ Moore, Burden, and Odunze, who's the closest? I don't think anybody's perfect 1-for-1, but who's the closest to St. Brown? I think it's Burden.
I think it's DJ Moore.
Really? Yeah. I don't think this DJ Moore anymore.
I don't know, honestly. I feel like we're going to see a little bit of a difference here, but they're going to take advantage of everybody's skill set. And Burden's is get the ball in his hands. You're going to see reverses. You're going to see screens. You're going to see short passes. You're going to see a lot of stuff drawn up for Burden. I think Rome Odunze just needs to fit into the offense a little bit better. And I think Ben Johnson is just so good at getting the best out of everybody. So I really like everything in this offense here, but it's obviously best for Kaleb, because it's not best for the targets. There's too many.
Well, so point. To something that Debro and I just talked about the other day, if all three of us, let's just say we're all 3 different people. Here's the answer. What I always say, buy the cake, not the icing. Kaleb Williams is the answer. Don't try and figure out the wide receivers, because it might be a full-blown wide receiver committee.
Don't hate that at all, which is why I have Matthew Golden ahead of these guys here. And I think just the situation in Green Bay, I know that he is not Fitzy's favorite player, right? And he's a Packers fan. He didn't want Matthew Golden because of the analytics and all this stuff. Look, I understand he wasn't what he was at Texas. In Houston, who cares? I don't care what he was. I care what he is. He is a man with 4.29 speed. It shows up on the field. Also, for a guy of his frame and size, 61% contested catch rate last season against some of the best corners in the world in the SEC. I think that Matthew Golden comes into Green Bay and can be a number 1 immediately. There's a lot of wide receivers to contend with, right? You have Dobbs, you have Jaden Reed, but they didn't like Jaden Reed last year. Christian Watson is out for probably the whole year, and Dontavian Wicks is firmly a MVS, doppelganger here in this offense. So he's not on the field a bunch either. So I think Matthew Golden is going to lead this team in snaps from year 1. First time since 2002 they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. I think this guy is going to get a ton of usage, which is why I have him as a first rounder as well. Before we talk about why Debro hates Jalen Milroe so much, let me tell you guys, by now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? It's time to go see what all the buzz in the Dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. If you think it sounds complicated, it's not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. If you think you're among the fantasy elite, this is the platform to test your mettle. If you're still not sure, you can test out your general manager skills for FREE free in a mock free agency auction. If you like what you see, use promo code FantasyPros to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. That's promo code FantasyPros to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com. All right. Milroe, 32 in Superflex.
Yep.
I thought I was low because I had him at 19, which is one spot below consensus here. Jakey has him one spot above consensus. What the hate for Milroe? I'll give Debro this credit. It has not changed. He has not wavered. He didn't like Milroe at the Senior Bowl. Still doesn't like him after. So
did he like give you a bad interview or something, Debro?
No, I like the kid. I like the play. Like I like Jalen Milroe, the person, the human. Where I have problems with Milroe is his game, his inaccuracies as a passer. But I think the bigger reason that I have him buried in ranks right now is because I don't want to go chasing outliers. I don't want to go chasing a 3rd round selected NFL drafted quarterback. And I think if you're looking at any guys, like we just talked about, there's not safety in Jaxson Dart. He went in the freaking 1st round. Then what are we talking about with a 3rd round drafted quarterback? Like we have worries and issues about safety and getting on the field for Jaxson Dart if all these things happen, but then we're going to say, okay, but Jalen Milroe, we're all in. Like, we don't believe in Sam Darnold. Like, that's where I divide with it. With Jalen Milroe, I don't want to go chasing an outlier. If he is a starter in the NFL for multiple years, then he will be an outlier as a quarterback drafted in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. And it's just not an archetype when, even if I like the player, I want to be at consensus or below based off of that draft capital, because that's what's going to give him opportunities. We just talked about that gives you 2nd and 3rd chances in the NFL. Right now with Jalen Milroe, I don't even know if he gets chance number 1. Coming down to Sam Darnold, like, we can all have our jokes about Sam Darnold, and I'm not a huge Sam Darnold proponent, but the contract that Seattle gave him, he has 2 years of strong money on his deal. He is going to be their starter for the next 2 seasons. So outside of injury or if Sam Darnold face plants, I don't know if we see Jalen Milroe legit, like, even get on the field. I feel like this is the Malik Willis situation.
Can I remind you of Matt Flynn real quick?
You can, but it doesn't really matter with the coaching staff and stuff. It's totally different.
It's a complete
It is absolutely different.
It is, but they gave Matt Flynn a ton of money, and then Russell Wilson was their starter week 1. I don't think that happened.
Pete Carroll's in Vegas, so
yes, I understand. But I also think that they have an out after year 1, and even if they don't have an out after year 1 on Sam Darnold, then
their earliest out is 2027 for $19.2 million in dead cap. In 2026, they're still going to get hit with almost $26 million in dead cap. I don't think Seattle's moving on from him for the next 2 years. So
if he crashes and burns in year 1, he'll be a really expensive backup.
Then it's going to be a camp battle in year 2. And
sure, yes.
Again, I don't know if Milroe is a good enough passer to even win that camp.
Look, I don't hate your position here at all.
Yeah,
because we saw Malik. Just think of Malik Willis.
That's exactly what I'm looking at.
Right.
Like, no. I love Malik going into the draft, but like, he fell, and I didn't adjust enough in that. So a part of this is too learning. And if people want to make a bet on the outlier, I get it, but it's just not.
I don't see that's where like. Let's talk like everything you're saying. Like, unless you even go to Anthony Richardson on this, because if his path follows Anthony Richardson starting next year, but no, here's what I'm going to say is, like, you're not wrong in all this, but it comes down to, we're talking dynasty, we're talking fantasy, we're talking super flex. Do you want to take this chance? If you are strong at quarterback, like Jalen Milroe for me, in both my dynasty leagues, I have 3 and 4 starting what caliber quarterbacks. I like Jalen Milroe, and he wasn't even on my radar because I don't need to be looking that way. If you are in Superflex and you want to take the flyer, that's fine. If you don't, you could argue, Debro, that he isn't until the 3rd round, and like, you don't even need to be thinking about him. So I think that's what it comes down to. And the only pushback I'll give you overall is, I think it's somebody who still is developing. You say you love the player, the character. Mm-hmm. I love that he came into teams and said, here's what's wrong with my game, because I know you see the same thing. I know I need to improve. And he is in a position where it's not like, we don't even need to think about you starting unless something happens to Sam Darnold. Like, this is clearly a plan of, maybe it's a Hurts, Dak, whatever, and he is an outlier in that facet, but he's also in a position where he doesn't need to be asked to do either of those things. And where you're right is, we might not even be talking about Milroe as a starter ever. Like, it might not ever happen. So if you don't need that, but I am going to take the 2nd round chance on somebody who could run for 1,000 yards, pass like doo-doo, and still be a QB1, just because if he is a starting quarterback, he is going to be running the doors off the field.
So I guess here's I got a question.
Okay.
Why do you not like Tyler Shough more, considering he got 2nd round capital and Derek Carr might not even play this year? So like, I have Shough
2 reasons.
Milroe. So like,
one
I'm
is
not even the biggest Tyler Shough fan, but if you want to talk about,
we're all below consensus on Tyler Shough, by the way.
But I have him over Milroe because I'm like, he got 2nd round capital, and I think he's got a clear path to starting, and I don't even like Tyler Shough. So like, I have Shough ranked over Milroe for those reasons, but what do y'all feel like versus Milroe versus Shough?
Well, first, it's because there's no way on earth you're going to convince me his name's not Shough. And it's Shough because you don't pronounce. That's it. I'm Shough. Like stop. Like no, stop. With the Chris Zuski, your name's not Krzyzewski. Get the hell.
Brett Favre says hi. Brett Favre says hi. That's all I can say.
So anyway, no. In seriousness, here is because I know who he is. And I didn't even need to see that clip that they kept showing from his pro day where he threw it into the dirt.
Oh, the combine?
I knew that. I knew that's who he was to begin with. And that's what it comes down to is, okay, let's just talk fantasy. Again, we are talking fantasy. Do I think he potentially starts as a rookie because of the car situation? Absolutely. Even so, he's going to have to do 95% of it with his arm. And I don't want that in fantasy. I don't want to chase QB 20. I'd rather take my chances just like real life NFL. I'd rather take 3 shots at a first round pick every 3 years. Like I missed. And finally I hit on a top 10 quarterback and I got my guy, than to sit there and be like, oh, cool. I got Andy Dalton for 10 years. Screw that. I don't want QB 20. I don't.
Yeah. I'll add to the Tyler Shough disparity here. I just think that, look, the Saints drafted a guy they know that no one's going to be upset when they cast him aside next year. They don't have
below ACR.
They don't have any money. They can't go sign anybody if Derek Carr can't play. So the solution is let's find someone in the draft. I feel like the Broncos were kind of stuck with Bo Nix in this scenario as well after cutting Russell Wilson last year. It worked for them. Bo Nix is awesome, right? I don't believe in Tyler Shough. And the reason is, he's 26. He's going to be 26 before the season starts. And he was constantly hurt in his collegiate career. That's why he played 38 years of college football or whatever. I mean, he played for every team in the Big 12. So I just I don't buy.
He's the Ryan Fitzpatrick of college.
Honestly, dude. Like he played forever.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I know you don't.
And that's why I think all 3 of us are below ECR on him. I guess my thing of him versus Milroe, if he does start this year and with the second round capital, I know that I could probably flip him to somebody versus I could trade him away or I could write him out as a
Okay, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimate, and if you go against what I think would be, well, I know what my answer would be, but I think you would say, but seriously, who do you think is more likely to have a starting job in the NFL in 3 years, Milroe or Shough?
Can I take door number C? Neither.
Well, no, but you kind of see where I'm kind of trying to lead you, and I kind of felt like you might.
Oh, I get you. I get you.
And I think that's what it comes down to too.
It's just there's so much upside. Milroe is a player that you take. When you can afford to take him because he's sitting for at least a year, at least. So, probably 2, right? Just like the contract stuff probably means 2 years for him. So you have to have your P's and Q's all knotted up and you have to be able to, roster a player that's not going to play for you for a couple seasons. So that will drop him in some drafts. Let's go. We got to talk about one guy before we get out of the second round of ECR, and then we'll go faster through the third and fourth. But Jake, you're a Virginia guy, and you hate Bhayshul Tuten. I don't understand. Oh, you got him at 32. His consensus is 24. Debro and I are both just slightly above consensus here. What is your hatred for Tuten? The people want to know.
Not rooting for Tuten, just because I'm in Virginia. I actually hate Virginia Tech because everybody used to be UVA fans when I was growing up, and then that Vic guy showed up, and all of a sudden, all the Virginia Tech stickers start showing up. Like, oh, we're Virginia Tech fans now. No, but seriously, also that dated myself. I think this comes down to this is somebody that I just wasn't as impressed by everybody else on. I feel like Tuten is, and now let me finish. He's DeAndre Swift, but he's this version of DeAndre Swift, which is okay. I think that's an explosive-ish, okay running back on the right team. Sure. I don't necessarily think this is the right team. And I think a lot of it comes down to there's multiple options here. I don't know that he necessarily wins out. I don't know if he ever gets anything more than a 40% timeshare. So I talked about it. I love his burst. I love his speed. I love the fact that he get outside to the edge. I worry that pass protection is going to keep him from getting on the field. I don't like his hesitation. So there's just I just think he's explosive, but I don't think put it this way. I don't remember if I said it with Debro or whoever it was on a few episodes ago, but I feel like he's one of those Darius Hayward-Bay at running back. Like all the athleticism in the world, he just doesn't play the position as good as I want him to play the position. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he's a great running back.
All-world gunner. I'll say that for him.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's a great athlete. Right. I don't think he's a great running back.
I don't. He's definitely fast. We know that. And this team tried that with Keelan Robinson, my guy from Texas. He's a special teamer. The thing that I like about Tuten, D-Bro, is that he's got a lot of speed, and I feel like Cohen has a plan for him in Jacksonville, and he's hand selected by this regime, right? I think that is the big thing. You do have Travis Etienne still there. I think Etienne is better than Tuten. I think the Tank Bigsby is still there. I don't know how much they like him. Obviously, they drafted 2 running backs here. They drafted Tuten and LaQuinn Allen. So I think it's interesting. Someone is the odd man out here. Is it Etienne? Is it Bigsby? Is it LaQuinn Allen because he was a late pick? But I think Tuten that is firmly entrenched here. I think they have a plan for him. That's why I like Tuten. What are your thoughts on him, D-Bro?
I love the talent. Explosive ability for days. Tackle breaking is going to translate. I mean, dude, he was top 10 in yards after contact per attempt, breakaway percentage, and elusive rating last year. He gets the draft capital. And I'm saying he gets the draft capital. I think we could make a blanket statement out of all of these guys in this running back class and say, I mean, pretty much after like the second, maybe the top end of after the second tier running backs, all of these guys got pushed down the board because the NFL knew the depth of the class. So like where Tuten, I think he should have been a 3rd round pick, but everybody was playing chicken and saying, well, I like running backs too, but I think I can get one in the 4th, 5th, 6th. Like all these guys dropping off the map as far as draft capital. So looking at the player, knowing that they have Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby there and the new coaching staff coming in and saying, yeah, we got those guys, but we're going to go get our guys. I think that's very telling. And I'm not projecting this and how I'm ranking him, but also if you were to tell me this was a backfield led by Bhayshul Tuten and Tank Bigsby this year, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm also not going to be surprised if Travis Etienne is traded sometime in camp if there's an injury or another team that says, yeah, hello Dallas, our backfield kind of sucks. So yes, we need a running back. But I think Tuten, given the new coaching staff, the draft capital for Travis Etienne, toss that out the freaking window. He's had injuries and underperformance, and this is all a new regime and stuff. So that is totally in the back of my mind. So like if this goes into in camp, who is the best guy? And we're just going to let the best guy win, because that's what happened in Tampa Bay last year with Bucky Irving. He outplayed Rachaad White so much, so consistently that they were like, I mean, we got to keep feeding this guy touches because he is worlds better than the other guys that we got in this room. I think that is I'm not saying it's the definitive outcome for Bhayshul Tuten, but I think it's definitely in the realm of possibilities. And if it is, I want to be at or above consensus with that guy.
And it would be interesting to see.
Go ahead, Scott. You finish. You finish.
Well, I was going to say, like, look, this guy is a ball of clay coming in, right? Mm-hmm. Liam Cohen is a good guy to teach him. Obviously, last year he had Bucky, right? Like, I feel like this offense or this player could be strong with a little bit of tutelage because he has all that athletic upside. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, my concern is you go back to he has a plan for him. What if it's a committee plan and the plan is J.D. McKissic? Like that's part of my concern, something like that. The other part where you brought up the draft capital, and this is the other reason I look at it. And so I'll give you 2 flyers that I threw out. I have Jaden Blue and Dylan Sampson ahead of him. Again, part of that is my inherent opinion of Tuten, but 4th, 5th round, I kind of feel like once you start getting to the 4th round, and you're right, everybody got pushed down, but you start having teams looking for I actually agree 100%. They're looking for what their plan is. And I guess that's my hesitation is the plan for Tuten was like, they're probably one of his guys, but what is that? Like, if I could talk to Liam Cohen and be like, boom, like, tell me, is he 50-50 of the share? Like, well, cool, he's going to be sign me up. I'm doing
and we'll work him in. Sucks.
Or like, he's 3rd downs only, like that type of thing, where I think if I look at Blue, I think there's a clear path to him being the lead day one. I think Sampson could shock us and maybe be the better per touch guy. And we see
Judkins, Williams, and Aaron Jones going in the same class,
right? Similar. So those kind of things. So like, I just, and that's bringing in the fact that I could be wrong about Tuten. Same thing could happen with Tuten, but like the 4th, 5th round guys, I kind of feel like there's a plan for these teams and what they want in the running back to be. So like, it doesn't necessarily mean that like, because Jaden Blue went a full round after him, they're like so much higher on Tuten. It's just that style of running back is more of what they were looking for.
All right, so let's get to round 3 and 4 quickly here. Round 3, it goes Shedeur at 25, then Jaden Blue at 26, Dylan Sampson at 27. Then we have Arroyo, Jalen Royals, Mason Taylor, Devin Neal down to 31. 32 to 36 is Alec Amanor, Harold Fannin Jr., Terrence Ferguson, Will Howard, and DJ Giddens here. There's a lot of red from me specifically in this group. But there's some hateful rankings from Jake and Debro in this group here. So let's do this. Let's talk about the quarterback specifically because this is Superflex. Shedeur dropped to the 5th. I think he's better than Dylan Gabriel. I'm ranking him ahead of Dylan Gabriel, even though he was selected behind him because I just think he's a better quarterback. Will Howard has an outside shot to start this year. I have him at 28. Jake has him at 35. Or I am at 46. Jake has him at 40. Debro has him at 65. Debro, you just don't think Will Howard.
He knows Aaron Rodgers is coming.
I think Aaron Rodgers is signing there. That's where I think. And I
but
think
who do you think is backup? Do you think Mason Rudolph is definitely?
Oh yeah, I think Mason. I think Big Face Mace is backup. Yeah,
I don't like either of those guys, so I hope it's Will Howard. But
I'm kind of with you on that because if I'm the Steelers and you do sign Aaron Rodgers, why not? Why would you roll forward with Mason Rudolph? Just see what you have in Will Howard, who arguably has a higher ceiling. Like
because Mace is a Tomlin guy.
Yeah, he is. But I can't stand either Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph.
I'm not gonna make a conversation for Mason Rudolph. You won't hear that. You won't hear me make an argument for him. So,
but we're I think Eli Arroyo, Jake, you have down a little bit. You also hate Jalen Royals, which I don't get at all. So I think we've heard the Arroyo talk. That's specifically tight end, right? That's
just big tight end. I don't know if he's even a thing until year 3 at this point.
They also already have him. It's Noah Fant. They have the same guy but older. So I'm just not a. Go ahead. Go ahead, Debro.
So I'm looking at our ranks, and there are 3. I think how I'm approaching these tight ends is different, and so I think it's a good talking point for all of us. I think we are categorically burying Elijah Arroyo, Harold Fannin, and Terrence Ferguson too much. This is going on in rookie drafts right now. I think it's happening in rankings. All 3 of those guys, all of the tight ends ahead of them are out of the picture after this year. Noah Fant is in a contract year. David Njoku is in a contract year. Tyler Higbee is in a contract year. And all 3 of those teams put 2nd or 3rd round capital into these tight ends. I look at all of them. They are the heir apparent to being the starter. Maybe they make noise and they're the starter this year. Not for Njoku. I think he definitively starts over Fannin. But all of these guys, I think that we're approaching the situation a little bit wrong in the sense that I think that they are going to be the team starters next year, which is why I have all of them ranked above where y'all have them, and honestly ECR as well. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I'm approaching those 3 situations right now.
I you know what? I don't hate that thought process, Debro. I guess my thing is, did Harold Fannin wind up in a spot where they're for sure going to use him correctly in Cleveland? I think
you throw 3rd round capital to him. I think they got a plan.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think they have a plan.
If he was Jaheim Bell and he went to the 5th round, we'd be having a very different conversation.
Look, in the words of Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. I don't know if he is going to be the slot guy
here's my pushback on that. And so I think this is a very similar to like wide receiver. It was 2 guys and then a bunch of people. Like so. To go to Arroyo, I think he could be Jonnu Smith. I think Fannin could be Jared Cook. I think Terrence Ferguson could be Mike Gesicki. That goes back to my inherent theory, like my plans with tight ends. I don't care. Like, I don't care about tight end 12. I just don't. And to your point, Debro, I don't disagree with your statement at all. Mm-hmm. I think all of them have clear paths to year 2, if not definitively year 3. I think Ferguson might have a path to year 1, but all that being said is it comes down to my opinion of these tight ends and my opinion of them in fantasy. I just don't see any of them of pushing the top 5 or top 6. And that's why I'm just kind of what you would say, like, out on them.
No, and I get it. And you're also fading tight end in Dynasty and saying, look, it's replaceable. I can get,
I'm doing that a little bit too.
Tight end and that's fine. That comes down to process and stuff.
I mean,
so
look,
I get it.
And you look at these teams. You should go back to Bogman's point too. Like how many times have we clamored for Cade Otton? And just because of that offense, like he was getting usage, but because of Baker and that offense, he just ignores them in the red zone. So it's like, cool, I got 800 yards potentially, but 3 touchdowns. Like, so it's just, you have to, in my opinion, to be somebody I really care about at tight end, you have to be pushing 800 plus yards, and I want you 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. I don't want one or the other. Like Pat Fryermuth, if you're using it, Boggs, 600 yards, and he got the 8 touchdowns. Okay, cool. You're still tight end 12 because you didn't have the yards to go with the touchdowns.
Yeah, tight end is just, it's a tough needle to thread perfectly. So if I don't think it's one of those tippy top guys, in general, I'm ignoring them. I've taken my shots on Chigakonkwo, Gunnar Helm. I'll probably have a couple shares of this year just because I like him as a player, right? But I don't know. Tight end is just such in this year specifically. I feel like there's some good wideouts. I feel like there's some good running backs around these guys. So I just push them down is all. But I mean, before we move on, and then I want to hear about some players you guys love instead of all this hate fest. Jake, why do you hate Jalen Royals? What is going on here? Because you have him at 54. His ECR is 29. D-Bro's at ECR. I'm one spot below. So we're not insane on him, but you hate his guts. What did he do to you?
Rashee Rice, is that cleared up yet? Is Xavier Worthy dead? I mean, is Travis Kelce retired? Like, where's the path within 2-3 years for him to get out there and be a top 2-3 option? And the funny thing was,
Kelce goes away and Rice goes to jail. That's the pace.
Okay, well, Rice this year, and still does he get to number 2? I get it. It's just
coming off a major injury here, Jakey.
I'm just throwing it out there. Ask the question. It's valid answers. I'm just saying. Okay. I need him to have a path to being a top 3 option. I just don't know that that's this year, maybe next year. But the thing is, the funny, why, and this is maybe my slanted thinking on it, is I compared him to Sammy Watkins. So I'm like, cool, sign me up week 1, and then I'm getting rid of him. So look, my biggest concern, especially for this fit, and I know the Chiefs took him, but it's weird because my biggest concern about Royals was his route running. And the new Chiefs offense is somebody that kind of it's an offense that values that more than it used to with the way that they run. So that's also my concern too, is I think he needs to clean that up to get on the field and even push whether or not Rice gets suspended. I think he needs to push back even Brown, honestly. His route running is a big concern for me. I definitely think 2026, 2027, but if he's somebody that 2 years from now are wow, he never got up the depth chart. How many times have we seen this before? Sky Moore? I could just see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Sky Moore here. Let's get to some players we love. Let me give you 37 through 48, just so we have 4 rounds in the books here. 37 is Pat Bryant, wide receiver in Denver. 38 is Jarquez Hunter, running back going to the Rams. Savion Williams, 39 for the Packers. Jordan James at 40. Trevor Etienne at 41. Then we have Ty Felton, Torrey Horton, 2 wide receivers at 42 and 43. Stack of running backs here: Ollie Gordon, Woody Marks, Tahj Brooks, then Dylan Gabriel at 47, Brashard Smith at 48. So first I want to hear let's do overarching thoughts on the rest of the quarterbacks, since this is a super flex that we're talking about. Are there any others that you like? I mean, we talked about Will Howard a little bit, but ECR really kills Dylan Gabriel. Riley Leonard, even though I feel like he fits well, he's still 3rd. Kyle McCord, I don't know if I like that fit. I do like the fit of Quinn Ewers in Miami because I think that he's probably better than Zach Wilson already, and Tua is highly susceptible to injuries.
But so is yours. That was the weirdest thing about it.
He is. He very much is. And that is what killed his
The Dolphins have a type.
They do. At least he's not a lefty. I just assumed they were going to be taking Dylan Gabriel, by the way, to go with a lefty backup here. But so I guess just no love for the other quarterbacks here, D-Bro?
No, none. I mean, there's no draft capital. I'm not enamored with landing spots, draft cap, none of it. Like, it's just no.
Okay. Well, tell us, you do love Jarquez Hunter.
Yes.
And listen, I probably pushed Jarquez Hunter down a little bit too much. I hate the landing spot with the Rams because I think Blake Corum is better than him.
No, we're going to have a big conversation about him.
I think Blake Corum's better than him. Kyren is a free agent after this year. They're not paying another running back after what happened with Todd Gurley, most likely.
Yep.
But they do have a spot open. I just think Blake Corum is way better than Jarquez Hunter, D-Bro. So, but you have Hunter as a second rounder. Tell us about your love for him.
I think he's arbitrage Bhayshul Tuten. Tell me what's different about these situations, boys. A 4th round draft capital. He's getting drafted into a backfield with 2 other guys going into the second year. We could say Corum is a veteran. And we're saying, okay, does talent win out? And again, drawing parallels to previous or other backfields and stuff like that. Again, I think this is the under the radar possible Bucky Irving situation. And this isn't me saying, okay, I know we played this game and I know a lot of people have said this. I didn't say this last year about Kyren Williams, but I'm saying it this year. Part of it, I wasn't in on Blake Corum. He immensely concerned me as a prospect last year. You saw tackle breaking metrics drop in every single season he was at Michigan. The injuries, and he did nothing in his rookie season. And the Rams went out and said, you know what? Yeah, we spent a 3rd round pick on that guy last year. We're going to just go spend a 4th round pick on another running back this year. But we're supposed to say, okay, they have faith in Blake Corum. To me, that what I take away from teams is they're telling us what they think with their, whether it's the free agent signings or their draft moves. And I think it's very, very telling 2 years in a row that the Rams have taken a running back with top 4 round capital. Now, in back-to-back years, I think it's very telling that Blake Corum did not get on the field at all last year. I think it's an indictment of his talent for a prospect that I had a ton of concerns on. And then you look at the skill sets of these guys. Jarquez Hunter is the guy that's just different. He is different. He is a different running back than both Corum and Kyren, who are more gap scheme, more volume guys. They're not going to break home runs. They're not going to break explosives. Kyren Williams was arguably, and it's not a really good argument you can make on the other side of it, he was one of the most inefficient running backs in the entire NFL last year. Like, out of every running back with at least 100 carries, he is bottom 5 to bottom 10 in every single efficiency and tackle breaking metric you can pull up. So that guy, if he gets Rashad Whited this year and another running back comes in and he has more talent, more juice, more ability to create explosives on the ground, that's where I worry. Not only does Blake Corum standing as the RB2 on this team in question, but Kyren's standing as the unquestioned workhorse bell cow starter who, again, we talked about is a free agent after this year. That is firmly in question as well. And just to throw some love on Jarquez's talent, over the last 3 years, this guy has been top 24 in yards after contact per attempt in every single freaking season. In 2 of those 3 years, he's been top 10 in elusive rating. He's got the talent, guys, and he's the one guy that has the different skill set than the other 2 guys in that backfield. So, yeah, I want to be above consensus on him aggressively.
I like Hunter, but the way I see it is that after Todd Gurley got hurt, they had to deal with like Ronnie Rivers and a bunch of these other running backs. I feel like this is like, we're not going to get stuck again. So we're going to have good running backs on this roster. I don't know your thoughts on Corum or excuse me, on Hunter first, Jakey. And then I want to hear why you love Savion Williams so much.
Yeah, so it's like the Rams are basically drafting a running back every year. They just bumped it up from the 6th and 7th round to the 4th round, to D-Bro's point. Like, but I kind of lean a little bit more towards you. And like, so this is, and I'm not coming for Derek in this one, but I just like in general, like I want people to understand sometimes too, as these broken tackles get a little bit misconstrued when you just look at the inherent number. You watch Auburn, so a lot of those broken tackles, because of his one cut style and everything, were like arm tackles, like taking defenders head on. He's not breaking very many of those. And I don't mean like, obviously, if somebody just squares you up, there's only so many running backs who are going to do that anyway. I just think once he gets wrapped up, he's not breaking those. And so that was actually one of my concerns for him. And I think he kind of tries to do too much. So what I kind of thought in my mind, and this is, again, my opinion of Jarquez Hunter, and I'm not 100%, like I miss on some running backs. It's just when I went into the pre-draft process, I thought of him as like Chase Edmonds meets Michael Carter. And the downside of Michael Carter is what I think the risk here is that, sure, Derek, there is a non-zero chance he wins out. There's a non-zero chance he's already part of this committee, as we saw when the interview just went last week with Len, and he was like, hey, we understand today's NFL. We need to take some of this workload off the lead guy. He could get timeshare opportunities right out of the gate. And then if Kyren continues to struggle, maybe they see Hunter, and then Corum comes in as a timeshare. But that's also part of my concern too, is that the Rams might be shifting out of their McVay offense of a bell cow running back into that. I don't see, basically that's what it comes down to. I don't see Hunter as a 65% lead running back. I think he's better as the second piece of a timeshare. So that's just my opinion on him. Savion Williams, I think all the pre-draft comps of Cordell Patterson shaded him a bit. I know why people did it, because of his running ability, because of his size, but I think that undercut his receiving ability, in my opinion. I actually thought he was more of a bigger, better Curtis Samuel, because Curtis Samuel is a better wide receiver than we've seen him in the NFL. We saw when he was with Carolina and what he was able to do. And that's why I like Savion Williams. I actually think that if you put Curtis Samuel on this team and you said, hey, we're going into this season with Golden, Curtis Samuel, and the incumbents, Jayden Reed's on notice. Like, Jayden Reed's not a guarantee to keep a top 2 role ahead of both. What Boggs, you love him, Golden. We're a little bit lower on him. I know I think I'm the lowest, but not by a ton. I just think there's a path here where Williams could be either a top 2 or top 3 wide receiver. And in this offense, top 3 wide receivers matter. All 3 of them do. So it just comes down to,
I think carries too, Jake. Like, I just want to throw that out, because
that's why I was bringing the Cordell Patterson part.
Lloyd being the backup here does not give you a lot of confidence, I would assume.
No. And so I see a path where you could see, as even a rookie, I would say 800 total yards. And I say total because including the rushing upside. And I think there's a window where in year 2, in 2026, we're talking about Savion Williams pushing 1,000 plus total yards, their version of Debo, which everybody's trying to find these days. But like the Debo that wasn't that peak season, the Debo that chipped in 200 rushing yards, not 400, like multiple touchdowns.
Yeah. Debo, did you want to say something about Savion there?
Yeah. So I will say that I just moved up Savion Williams in my rankings. I'm bumping him up to 38th overall. So I want to be
Look more at us coming together and moving our rankings around.
Because so my worry about Savion Williams is just my worry in general about this entire Packers passing attack. I think
because they had 15 number 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, I think that what they did in the draft said to us not only the drafting of Matthew Golden, but it was drafting Savion in the freaking 3rd round. I think that says to us this is going to continue to be a wide receiver by committee approach and a money ball approach. But in all of that, I agree with the fact that Jayden Reed is on notice. And I agree with the fact that Savion could be Matt LaFleur's Deebo Samuel in this offense. He could be the jack of all trades. He's getting rushing attempts. He's getting easy pop passes. He's getting usage in the backfield, but then in the slot. And so in that, the upside case for Savion is pretty enticing. So yeah, I mean, I had him really, really low in my rankings just in general. If you were to tell me Savion Williams was the new Jayden Reed in this offense, cool, I could see it. I can also see where he doesn't start any of the games this year and he's buried and he's wide receiver 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's why I lean too much into my worries about him getting buried in this process and not enough on the upside. That's where I'm correcting that.
For me, the guy that I love is, and he's at 36, so he's not a 4th rounder, but DJ Giddens, running back from Kansas State that ended up with the Colts. Yes, he is supremely blocked by Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a much better running back than DJ Giddens. I don't think you're going to find a lot of argument on that, but he's also been hurt a bunch. And I think it's the Colts are just finally saying, look, we can't go with Khalil Herbert and Evan Hull and these 5th rounders and free agent scrap heap type of guys to back him up anymore. If he's going to miss time, we need to have a legit backup. Giddens is not here to take passing downs. He had 58 catches, but he also was miserable at blocking, at pass blocking. So he's in here to take carries. And I think if he gets 5 to 10 carries a game to start, I think the Colts want to do that with him to extend Jonathan Taylor. You know, it's hard to have the best running back on the field constantly on the field. They break down so fast. Look at what's happening with CMC right now when they just refuse to take him off the field. I think the Colts are recognizing that and saying we have to have someone to, change pace, to not give 30 touches a game to Jonathan Taylor, especially if none of these crappy quarterbacks work. If Richardson doesn't work, if Daniel Jones doesn't work, and Riley Leonard doesn't work, they're all the same guy. It's all a bunch of dudes that can't throw and can run really well. We're going to need more guys in the backfield to make this a dangerous backfield. I think Giddens gets a decent run this season. And, if Jonathan Taylor's long-term, he's just a great handcuff. If you are rostering JT, you need DJ Giddens.
Well, that's why I like, and I know, but we're only talking about 5th rounder in this case. I'm the only one of the 3 of us that ranked him, but that's why I like Bentley too. As a flyer, as like a pass catcher, I think he could complement the backfield with Giddens if something happens to Taylor. And at this point, Taylor's running into the cold James Conner thing. Like, hey, give us a healthy season, buddy.
Yeah, if Bentley is here because they have Herbert too. Bentley could push Herbert right off this roster. It would not be surprising at all. And then you have Bentley as a 2-minute warning type of a guy, a quick pace drive.
Are you going to mention the 5th round?
Well, I'm going to mention that we're all above consensus. TeSlaa by a ton. His ECR is 49. Jake has him at 30. I have him at 32. Debro has him at 37. We're all around higher TeSlaa, least on consensus on Isaac TeSlaa. And Debro, I didn't do many shows with you before the draft. Mm-hmm. We talked wide receivers, and I brought up TeSlaa as a guy I love late. So, Debro, tell us why we should all love Isaac TeSlaa, please.
Are you going to pronounce his last name properly, Debro?
TeSlaa.
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 TeSlaa. Okay. Well, dude, I don't know whether this works out for Isaac TeSlaa or not, but I will say, God, it felt like almost saying coleslaw. But
that actually, if you see him interviewed, I forget if it was him or his coach. Somebody actually said, "Think coleslaw" when you say his name.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Somebody said it. I don't remember who.
I'm usually the person that butchers names, so it's nice to actually get one right for once. So that I love it. But dude, for me with Isaac TeSlaa, it comes down to, and I'm accentuating it there. What it comes down to is I see the athletic upside. I didn't see it from the analytical standpoint or the film with him, but dude, the Lions gave up the farm to get this guy. I mean, would you trade a 3rd round pick
team that better have a plan?
Dude, like that's a lot of capital to give up. And I'm like, Detroit, right or wrong, is going to have a plan for this guy. I question what that plan is, only because he was a big slot in college. He played out of the slot. Well, guess what? That role. So he's going to be pushed to the boundary. So it's something new than what he was asked to do in college. But with all of that capital thrown behind him, they are going to force feed him opportunities, even though, yes, it was only a 3rd round. It was freaking 3/3. So we could all laugh about the trades that the Atlanta Falcons made and how aggressive that was. The Lions were right behind them later in the draft. So they're going to make this guy a thing. Now, whether that's year 1, year 2, but I mean, draft capital talks. I think it's a similar conversation we talk about with Isaac TeSlaa versus even Pat Bryant.
And Pat Bryant, we're all ahead of consensus as well. One of the very few players we're all ahead of on consensus on Pat Bryant and Tahj Brooks and Oronde Gadsden and Kyle Monangai, and Dante Thornton, surprisingly. Like, there are a couple guys in here that we all 3 of us are higher on consensus than, and those are the other guys. But TeSlaa, I thought, was interesting because we're all at least a round higher on him. All right, I will give you guys a chance. Anybody we didn't bring up that you like, that you want people to get on their rosters? Debro, you're first.
Dude, I freaking love Jacory Croskey-Merritt. He's got a clear path to getting snaps in this backfield. Like, yes, Brian Robinson Jr. got snaps last year. Yes, he can't stay healthy. Austin Eckler, we know what he's going to do. He's going to be the passing down back. Yes, Jeremy McNichols got on the field last year. If this comes down to like talent, like an opportunity, I think Croskey-Merritt, 1, if this running back class wasn't as deep, he would have gone earlier. 2, if the NCAA didn't screw him based off of eligibility crap last year, he would have gone two rounds above where he did. So a bet that I want to be making, whether it's with my final round pick, 4th round pick in dynasty rookie drafts, or I'm betting aggressively if I'm trying to get him off of waivers after rookie drafts. That's a bet I want to be making.
Jake, who do you not want people to miss out on? Who did we not mention that you still love?
Damien Martinez. I'm going to keep saying is Kenneth Walker is gone next year. Like, I don't see any reason that the Seahawks bring him back at this point. And maybe they try to roll forward with Charbonnet, who have seen play pretty damn well when Walker's been out. But this is also a team that has been pretty even, go back to the previous Pete Carroll and the backfield being split a little bit. But the funny thing is I compared Damien Martinez to Chris Carson pre-draft. By the way, went to the Seahawks. And I think you're looking at 2026 at least being a piece in that backfield. And that might just be the fact that, like, I was a little bit higher than Damien Martinez than most people. I had him in the same conversation as Dylan Sampson and Devin Neal, that tier of player. So a little bit higher than most. But I just think that Chris Carson type of running back, he doesn't have elite speed or burst, but that's not what you're looking for in that type of running back. And that seems to be like a Seattle Seahawks type of running back. And it was funny to me that he landed there where I think he's at least in the timeshare in 2026.
Yeah, I think it's a decent landing spot as well, but they got to get rid of somebody. And I think even if he doesn't make it with Seattle, he'll catch on somewhere else. Damien Martinez. I'll just throw out Tahj Brooks. We brought him up already.
Tahj.
I mean, just ending up in Cincinnati too. Like, I love Chase Brown. Chase Brown's a guy that showed us at Illinois he can carry the workload. He doesn't need to though. I don't think you should make him do that at his size. So I think Tahj Brooks comes in and takes a decent amount
because he's Chase Brown part 2.
He kind of is. Yeah, he's a guy that took a lot of carries at Texas Tech and has done
I wish Tahj would have come out last year. God darn it. I wish you'd have come out last year.
Would have been a much higher pick.
He'd have been a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah,
man.
it would have been.
I agree. I love Tahj.
I'll throw out one more just because we're talking about like Woody Marks too. Just because behind Joe Mixon, who's a pure volume, like he's always kind of been volume running back. It's even worse nowadays. He's one couple weeks off from having that job, but at least into a timeshare and then an injury, and you turn to Woody Marks on that Houston Texans offense, which I think as a whole, because we didn't talk about Higgins, I think the entire Texans offense, because of what happened and the disappointment of CJ Stroud last year, I think the entire offense is being undervalued just because everybody's like, oh, that's it. They suck. Yeah. They're trash. Move on.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. And that's why I've got Jalen Noel above consensus because, dude, Christian Kirk gets hurt again this year. Okay, fine. Jalen Noel in his season is just new Tank Dell. I couldn't agree more with that.
They're definitely rebuilding it. They want no excuses for CJ Stroud. So let's get him weapons. Let's get him marks to throw to. Let's get him 2 targets to throw to. So yeah, you can see them rebuilding. Last guy I'll throw out here, Monangai, ended up in Chicago. We've already seen Ben Johnson not really work well with DeAndre Swift, which is kind of weird. Roshan didn't do a ton last season. Now, maybe he, wins over this coaching staff. He's a super hard worker. I know they'll like his motor. But Monangai hand selected by this new staff. So he's an interesting one at running back for Chicago. But that is everything for us today. We appreciate you guys hanging out and talking about some of these Superflex Dynasty rookie rankings here with myself, Scott Bogman, at Bogman Sports, at Dbro_FFB on the Twitter, for Derek Brown, at All In Kid, for Jake Ciely. Dbro, what's coming up for you, my friend?
Oh, dude. So the top 100 has been updated. So that's going to help everybody with dynasty rookie drafts. And now it's turning over towards redraft season. So I'm currently writing up all the running backs for the site and stuff. So check those out. All the positional primers are updated. And dude, it's just this NFL draft cycle has been freaking awesome, man. I can't wait to just rock the rookie drafts and kind of dive through all this stuff and get ready for redraft and best ball.
Dbro's exhausting during a rookie draft. You get 13 trade offers a day from my man Dbro here. He wants his guys.
You're not trying, baby.
He wants his guys. That's it. That's it. Jakey, what is coming up for you?
Yeah, I got all the rankings since the draft's been out. Everything's updated, and I'm on vacation. I got a mini family vacation coming up, but when I get back, start my yearly off-season series of the next breakout, blank, and then quarterback, running back, wide receiver. It's a 4-part series, all 4 positions.
Jake's going to come back with a magnificent beard because he's not going to shave before the vacation.
I am going to Washington, so I guess I should get a beanie and do the whole hipster look. I mean, I might as well embrace it.
Why not? Why not,
embrace it, man. Yeah, that'll be a great
just
sign.
Jinkos blend in with the kids. All good.
Well, look, we ran over time here. Apologies for going long, but we had guys we wanted to talk about here. So we appreciate you guys hanging out. We will see you next time. Take it easy, everybody.